Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the anima, the animus, and also men and women. And today I'm joined by the lovely Cheryl Ashburn. How are you, Cheryl?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. We've been in quite a few conversations recently talking about this, what we're going to be speaking about today. We've got some really interesting topics to discuss, so I'm looking forward to
Mhm.
getting deep into these. First of all, should we talk about the three stages of the anima? I spoke kind of briefly with my friend David recently on a podcast, and I know that you saw that. But should we just go
Yes,
through it just so that we've got a full range of all the information that we need?
yes, it was a really good show. Really liked the three stages that really hit home with me in a lot of aspects of this journey.
Yeah, so we've got like the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And like the symbolism of this came up a lot in my artwork when I was first doing my shadow work journey. And when it came up, it was completely unconscious. Like I wasn't drawing specifically, but what I found actually a year later when I drew my animus, I don't know if you saw my animus that I drew.
Yes.
Yeah, so you wouldn't forget that, would you? But within that picture was like a sort of a maiden, mother, crone, and I hadn't put that in, and I only saw that a year later. But it's such a sort of universal collective symbol that I think when you're going through sort of the creative aspects of the shadow work process, it just somehow it just comes up. It's just there. It's within the collective unconscious.
Yes, it's definitely within that unconscious collective. It comes up in a lot of aspects of life, through men and women, I think.
So I think should we talk about some of the aspects to do with the maiden? You want to throw some words at me?
The maiden is
Mm,
the pure,
mm.
the princess. The maiden is the young girl with the big eyes. The
And the
maiden.
big something else.
Yeah, the maiden is the young one who has not reached puberty, who has not turned into a woman yet. The maiden.
And she's also very alluring, and I think that she continues to be the main sort of anima projection of men throughout a lot of their lives, and especially if they're unconscious of themselves, especially if they don't know about the anima, they've never heard of it, if they've never done any introspection work, if they haven't grown spiritually or psychologically themselves, if they haven't developed, then they continue to kind of have this sort of regressive state of constantly looking and projecting
the,
this idea of this kind of young, beautiful,
the innocent one.
yeah,
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 like the innocent young maiden who needs to be saved. Yes,
yeah.
the one who needs to be put on the pedestal to protect and to not let the pure of her essence be stolen. Like
Mm.
that's a big projection from men and for women when they're that age. When young girls are that age, they of course naturally they will project that out into the world because that is who they are as young girls. But men do project that innocence onto women, yes. And the big eyes, that's why I say the big eyes. It's the innocent look, that a lot of men look for in women.
And also it's the basis of a lot of fairy tales as well. So we just kind of go back and see
Yes.
how like collectively it's an archaic figure, isn't it? It's something it's innate, it's within us, it's an archetype. So I mean we're kind of born with
It
this
is an
idea.
archetype.
Yeah.
it,
Um,
it we are born with this idea that all with females are pure and innocent, and like, and it's true to a point. We are pure and innocent, that we haven't had any experience in the world, but uh, as a person, our feelings and thought might not always be pure and innocent.
hmm I guess that
So
there's a duality in all things. There's always the
yes,
opposites of
the
that.
always the polarity of everything. Yes,
Hmm
it's like the beautiful maiden that most men desire. Most men want to protect. The young men, they want that innocent, they want to be the teacher, they want to, it's, it comes out in so many things.
That also the opposite of that is, I think, equally as alluring, isn't it? Like, wouldn't you say? Like, although the main projection, I think, for a lot of men would be that kind of that sort of a young maiden type. Like
Yes.
the opposite of that, like the darker aspects of that are also maybe quite alluring for a man, do you think?
Yes. It would be the devilish grin, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
bright blue eyes, the
Well,
bright big childish eyes with the devilish grin.
mm-hmm.
That's the, you know, like, come play with me. You know what I mean? That's the projection they put onto women, you know, with that kind those kind of those aspects in their face, those physical features, you know,
Mm.
that those girls who look like that are like either innocent or they're the devil, you know, because they're so cute and playful and innocent, you know. Could get them in
Uh,
trouble.
so the next one would be the mother, wouldn't it? The mother
The
archetype
mother, yes.
obviously is you know, the nurturer, the giver, the giver of life,
The
the person
yes,
that makes you comfortable in your home, that cooks you dinner, the nurturing and
the one who
the
takes care of you emotionally and physically, you know, the one that you can lean on. Yeah.
hmm. But I guess like the negative aspect of that is also the terrible mother, the one who clings too tightly, the one who stomps all over
Yes.
their child's autonomy, the one who
The
keeps the
one who
child really,
castrates.
who castrates. Yeah, oh, that's really, yeah, that's very very naughty, and it happens so often. It's such a natural occurrence, and I think that unless you know about psychology and about how the mother can do that, a lot of people can be very sort of disinformed or misinformed about how their mother is. I mean, I know that as I got much older, I started to realise how I'd sort of kind of put one of my parents on a pedestal in some way, and then when you kind of realize some of the behavior, and when you start looking into psychology, you start realizing some of the behavior kind of kept you back and actually castrated in many ways. You can see the truth and reality of how your parenting has really affected you.
Your
um
parenting affects you, and their parenting affects them.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
just a huge cycle, you know. And like, the one who castrates, you know, as far as in the mother, the projection that men post, you know, project onto, you know, women, it might not, she's might not even be castrating that male, you know. It's just a projection from his mother, you know. And then he doesn't even understand his mother because, you know, he's never really got to know his mother, you know, not as a real person, you know, maybe as a mother, but not as a real person, you know. So
I
it is a big cycle.
I think one of the most horrible things that a mother can do, I think, especially the mother with the son, is they can kind of have the son almost as that they can keep them as a partner, almost keep them in that role of
Yes.
a partner,
Makes
and
them,
then also kind of not allow them to have any life of their own, and they don't understand. They can't see it until maybe sometimes later on. Sometimes they don't see it all their life. They just put their mother on the pedestal that she created.
yes. And you know that's definitely embedded deep into a lot of men. But then there's the opposite, where the mother was like the terrible mother, like abusive, and so they
Mm.
project onto women that all women are terrible, you know, like,
Hmm.
you know, it could, I mean, and not, you know, there's the smother mothers, there's all kinds of stuff going on in psychology, and it's so hard to really know which one's which, and when it comes to dealing with people's traumas and people's triggers, you know, like getting into the anima, you know, the slave and the master, the subject, you know, it's subjective to everyone, you know, everyone's anima would be different, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, this is why when I say it so often, this is why shadow work is so important, because I mean, a lot of people that I work with shadow work, and in my own shadow work as well. I mean, everyone's story is so unique, and it's personal to them and different. So you have to kind of look at every relationship, and you have to look at your own behavior and see what were the effects of my parenting for me. How did that affect me?
Mm-hmm.
And also, am I willing to be really honest about what's happened, and am I willing to see the fault in some of what I've experienced?
Well,
Uh,
see, that's the problem in the world. People don't want to be honest with themselves, not men or women. You know, we all project our you know, our shadow sides onto others. We project our family onto others. We project the hurt and everything onto everyone. You know, men project onto other men, women project onto other women. It's not just men and women, it's every single one of us in every situation.
Well, I think I'm going to quote here Michael Tessin, because he does say that we're living in an anti-psychological age, which I absolutely agree with.
Totally.
And so, like, if we find ourselves in 2020 at this age, with so much information that we've learned, and we're kind of having to, kind of stop, the buck kind of stops with us, hopefully. But what I want to say is that a lot of people don't know how. They don't know how to do this. We haven't been taught. These
No, we
these
haven't.
things we should have been taught from a very young age, like how to introspect and how to really know ourselves, and how to know how different people's reactions to us, our parents in particular, how that really plays a part, a huge part. Um, and I know I work sometimes with adults my age, older, who still, their parents are still very much, the actions and decisions that their parents made are still very much affecting their lives right now. And they can't,
And
get past it. They're at the very, very beginning, of trying to understand what their parents did, and how it impacted their life. And it does kind of go in stages. And I find people that I work with, um, especially when they're really hurting, they kind of come to me, uh, wanting to feel better. And part
they,
of,
yeah,
yeah,
that
and,
that
and
that
and part of
mother.
it is saying, I can't make you feel better.
No,
No
no,
one
that
can make you feel better. And
no
actually,
one can save
this
you
is
but
what you need
yourself.
to go through. This is exactly what you've been turning away from your whole life. You have to look at it now.
Hmm.
And this is the difficult thing, is trying to help them to understand that the pain is actually the way.
The pain is
Um,
the way. The pain, to dive deep into the pain is the only way. The only way to really face that shadow, where you stop getting those whispers of you're not good enough or you can't do this, in male and females, because it's on both sides, that it's not until you face your pain, until you put that pill down and face it, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And that's from the pharmaceutical end of it. People numb themselves, they're comfortably numb in their pain. They don't want to face it.
Hmm. Yeah, that's another really important thing for people to understand, is that, I mean, I've got friends who have, at times, needed to have medication, and especially, like postnatal depression. I've got a friend who
Hmm.
recently had a baby, and she knew, because she's her second baby, she knew that as soon as she had her second baby, that she needed some help, but that she wasn't going
It,
to get through
some
it.
do, some do, and that's
She
because she
most definitely
knew.
did. She needed it.
That's life threatening. Postpartum
Yes,
depression is life threatening. It's
yes,
not
it
just
is.
life threatening for the mother, but it's life threatening for the children as well.
Hmm.
So it's not that I'm totally against pharmaceuticals, but
Yeah.
she's not doing it because she wants to hide. She's doing it
No.
because she knows there's a
Mm.
difference.
Well, I mean, I think what happens there actually is that there's an imbalance in the hormones, isn't there?
Yes,
And
yes.
actually, I mean, I didn't suffer with postnatal depression really, but
That's a hard one. That's a hard one.
yeah, I didn't, but I do know that it was having a baby was a very traumatic, far more traumatic than I ever could be, been prepared for. I mean, I felt that I'd been cut from from top to bottom and just opened. That's how
Well,
I
was
wasn't, but that's
open.
how I felt. I just felt raw, completely
I
raw.
had a C-section, and I had a C-section at a young age. I didn't dilate.
Mm.
And so they, it was in the 90s, mid 90s, and they cut me open, and I was wide awake. They gave me an epidural, and so I was wide awake, and I sat there and watched the doctor cut me open, and then the doctor on one side of me and a nurse on the other side of me put their hands inside of me. They put their hands inside of me, and they said 1, 2, 3, and they yanked as hard as they could. That's a C-section. And I couldn't walk for 3 days after that. And then once my daughter was out of me, I passed out, completely
Hmm.
passed out.
Oh God, I'm not
I was
surprised.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think every birth is different as well. Everyone
Mm.
feels different. But I know my daughter had postpartum depression, and I was in the room for her last child, and her mood changed as soon as she had the child.
Yeah.
Like I could see it. Like
Hmm.
I mean, her mood completely changed, and she had postpartum depression. So,
Hmm.
it's a huge factor in women and children right now.
It is, and it's funny that we've actually started talking about this, because we are going to be talking about some women's issues today, aren't we?
Yes,
So
we
the kind of that it
we
ties
didn't even
in.
think
We
about
didn't
that
even
one.
get there yet, but it's kind of started already. But yeah, I mean, with my friend recently, I went over to see her, and Yeah, I saw that. I saw that the light had just gone out in her, and she was doing everything that she needed to do, but she was just coping, just barely coping with it. And she was getting loads of sleep. Baby's very good, sleeps all night, but she
Hmm.
needed it. So yeah, I mean, it's useful in
It's an
some
imbalance.
situations, but yeah, in terms of like kind of getting to your midlife and realizing that there's something wrong.
Mhm.
That's not the time. That's not the time to be taking medicine. That's the time to be looking within.
Right.
Unless, I mean, that for some people, if their emotions are that heightened that it's a life or death, and obviously then other things need to be looked at.
Yeah. This, I
Um,
mean, like pharmaceutical plays a big part in it, but also trusting yourself plays a
mhm,
better part in it, you know?
yeah. But a lot of people don't know about introspection work. They don't know about how to do this. It's such a they don't know that they can heal themselves. This is the problem. And that was one of many sort of life changing quotes that I heard from Michael Tasaran again. And I'm not sure if it's his originally, but it was, in order to heal yourself, you have to do it yourself and not look for a guru to do it for you. Um,
And that's just a teaching throughout the ages, you know, like
mhm,
all like gurus and shaman teachers, you know. Yeah, you go to a teacher, but usually the teacher doesn't teach you until you can realize that, you know.
yeah,
Not a
that's
good
it.
a good teacher won't teach you unless you already know that you have to do it yourself, and they're just
Exactly.
there
I
to
guess
help.
this is it. Like a good teacher would teach you that, yeah,
Yeah,
you can do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You can do it. So, right, moving on. We talked about the maiden and the mother. So let's talk about the crone now. The crone.
Hmm.
You and I are both turning into the crone, aren't we, Cheryl?
Yes, we are. We're turning into the crone. The cranky old women.
Hmm. Yeah, we're almost there.
Oh yeah, for sure. But you know, like I think it's women women in the world is crazy because you know our hormones do affect us throughout our whole life, you know, and turning into the crone, you know, we don't want to lose that maiden that's inside of us, you know, because I know myself, I still feel like I'm in my 20s, like, you know, like mentally, and you
Hmm.
know, like I don't feel like I'm an old person, you know, like, but then I have my friend that lives in town, you know, or did, she, you know, she tells me I'm an old person, you know, and she's in her 20s. And I was like, man, I guess when I was in my 20s, I thought people in their 40s were old too, but I don't feel it. Like I have just as much energy as she does, probably
Yeah.
more. So,
Okay. No, I feel it.
well, you know, some days I
Oh, I
definitely
feel
feel
it.
it, you know, especially like, you know, like a week
Oh, Cheryl, I'm
before.
fucked. I'm done. I'm done. I'm so done.
I'm
Like
done.
I feel kind of young in myself. Generally I feel quite kind of young, but then some days I look in the mirror and I just no, there's no way.
No, definitely not. Definitely have seen myself age, especially in this
Mm,
digital era that we live in. You know, we are
mm.
watching ourselves grow old through the camera, through the
Oh yeah,
phone. You know
definitely.
what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
so like, you know, we're our own poster girls.
So let's talk about the positive aspects of the crone where we're both heading. So, I mean, the first word that I think of is wisdom.
Wisdom, yes, wisdom,
Mhm.
definitely, definitely. Wisdom and to know better, which would come with
Experience.
wisdom. Experience, yes, experience to know, like, you know, to know that's not going to work because I've tried
Hmm.
that before. You know,
I've
like,
made that mistake already.
yeah, I've already been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then there's also like I guess also that when you get older as well, you lose your I mean parts of your ego kind of get pushed to one side, and you don't really
Yeah.
care so much about how you come across, how you seem, or what other people's opinions of you and all those kinds of things. So in a way, getting older, although you lose the beauty and the allure that you once had, which
Yes.
is actually a power, when
Well,
you lose some of
it
that,
could
but
be.
you
Yeah.
gain something else. You get, I think, you
Yes, you
gain you
definitely
gain
gain.
yourself. If you've kind of gone through the process of really getting to be who you all you have potential to be, then you gain yourself in the old later years.
Yes. It's a lot harder for people to tell you who you are when you've had enough experience in the world to know who you are.
Hmm. But that's not to say that we still don't continue to learn. I mean, both of us. I think we're
True.
both 43, aren't we? So
Yes, both
we've still
43. We're
got,
both
hopefully
Sagittarius.
we've both still got a bit of life in us. And then so
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
as we carry on through the cycles, we'll continue to grow in consciousness, I hope, and grow in wisdom. And I think the great thing about it is that we can sort of share it with other people, and share it with the people around us, and I guess guide the young, the
Yeah, guide
younger.
the younger, the one who actually want to learn something about this life,
Mm.
not just through their own experiences, which we could give them help because we are a little bit older and we have experienced a little bit more, and that's what makes us the crone.
But the other thing is, some people don't want to learn. Some young people don't want to learn
They
anything.
already
I
think they
mean,
know everything.
I guess also it's the culture as well. I mean, the culture is very much about, look at me. It's the TikTok videos. It's the I don't know.
It's
It's all very much I am. It's all
the
very
fad.
ego.
It's the
Yeah,
fads.
yeah.
It's the fads. So
It's it.
I'm cool because of this.
Mm,
It's still high school.
yeah, it
It's still,
is.
I'm sitting at the cool table.
It's kind of scary for me because my daughter is she's 10, and and I see her. She obviously there's apps and things that she's not allowed to have, but like with her friends all have these. They're all interested in this kind of culture, and she's their friends, and so she's interested through them.
Right.
And so as a parent to try and steer her in the right direction, I find it's really difficult. I mean, it's a fight against
It is.
against pop culture, really.
Well, if you remember your teenage years and your childhood, anything
Yeah,
that your parents didn't want you to have, that's what you wanted,
exactly. Yeah.
So
Oh,
like it's hard. It's like a double-edged sword. You've got to walk, like right on it, because one way,
just have to go with it
yeah.
to a certain extent. I think that
Yeah.
there has to be kind of guidelines as well.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
because if you press too hard on certain issues, then they're just going to rebel it, because that's just the nature of
mm.
growing.
So
So,
let's think of like the negative aspects of Crone then. So the negative aspects is that she's a bit of a witch, isn't she?
oh, she's total witch.
Yeah,
A
a
total
witch
witch,
and a bitch maybe. Could
and
she?
cold-hearted. And
Cold-hearted.
cold-hearted. Yes, she
Yeah.
is cold-hearted, and she doesn't want to hear anything. She knows everything. It's
Yeah.
like, it's the polarity, like at one in one, everything when you're young, and then you really know everything when you're older. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
when you get there, no one can tell you anything.
Could she
And
even
we
be
still
worse?
learn at that age, though.
She could even be worse than the terrible mother, couldn't she?
She's already been the terrible mother. She's
Yeah.
transformed into the terrible crone.
Worse, right?
Yeah, totally. She will castrate.
She makes a living from it now.
Yeah, she's the dominatrix that like has been doing it for 30 years. Sorry, I like
Oh,
analogies.
right. So let's talk about the three stages of the animus then. The
Oh, the three
animus.
stages of
So
the
we
Animus.
said the prince, the king, and the knight and the king.
Yes, the prince, knight, and king. The
Hmm.
prince and the prince who's going to save the princess, and everything's going to be right with the world. The knight who is the warrior who fights for community, and then the king who's won the battle. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, it's within women, it's interesting, the animus within women, and being the prince, and the and projecting that onto men, to save us all the time, to be the princess in the tower, needing the knight in the shining armor to come riding through on his white shiny horse, with this sword blazing.
Mm.
The
Um, uh,
Disney cartoon movies.
I guess like the idea is that when we're at that kind of maiden stage, then we're looking for the prince, and the prince would be someone who's maybe like the athlete, and he's
Yes.
like sporty, and he's like popular, and he's beautiful, and
And everyone loves him.
everyone, and he's funny and charming and wonderful,
Uh-huh.
all those kind of things. And so
Yes.
that this is like the initial stage of like the animus projection of what a woman would be looking for. And then
Yes, at that stage.
as she gets to like mother age, she's looking for a father, she's looking for a king,
She's looking,
sorry, knight. um
well, if we're talking about, like, if we're talking about the negative animus, or the negative, or the
mm,
positive animus, the positive part, which she's looking for a partner. The positive
mhm,
mother would be someone that can protect the children, someone that is a warrior in his own sense. But
mhm,
the negative aspect is where we're looking for the warrior, and which could be probably turned into the bad boy in some situations. In the way the social scenes we are in today, because we don't have real warriors. It's bad
Mm.
boys now. So
I guess like in terms of the knight, or let's just say the father,
the father, yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
guess the father, he's also the provider as well. He's a provider,
Yes,
but
yes,
he could also, as in the negative aspect, become maybe the tyrant. This is my
yeah,
home, this is how you do things, you do
yes,
my way, that
yes.
kind of thing. Um,
And project the submissive, the Eve submission onto women, onto
yes,
his family.
there is that,
Yes,
yeah. But then there's also counteracted by the positive, which is the provider, the giver of life, and um, the one who protects the family. So
yeah.
again, duality in all things, we know, with all of these archetypes. So let's talk about the king then, or I don't know, what's the opposite of crone? The wise old man, isn't it, or
It would,
hermit?
yeah, it'd be with a wise. It would be the hermit. Yeah, you're right. It would
Mm,
be the hermit, and I mean the king. I think the hermit is the king after after a certain stage of life for sure.
mm-hmm,
The hermit doesn't speak. The hermit is all negative parts of the hermit. They don't interact with the world. It is real closed off. And the positive side of the hermit is like the wise one,
mm-hmm,
the one, the all-knowing.
mm-hmm.
So like, yeah. And it plays out, these three levels of the anima and animus play out on all forms and planes of our lives. And if we watch, because we can project our animus as a female in the world, we will project those masculine qualities onto the world as ourselves. We always project the savior quality onto men. We project that father wound that most of us have onto men. And we always project our hurt and our abandonment from those wounds and from those negative aspects of our fathers and our negative animus. So it really goes really deep in the psychology of it all and how women and men are with the world.
I think it's also, like in terms of sort of attracting the opposite sex as well. I think for women, for everyone, we also kind of look for something, or there has to be something that's familiar. So
Yes.
so I mean, if we were kind of I don't know, if the father was, I always use this analogy, but if he was emotionally unavailable, then there is something, if they see that in the man, there is
Hmm.
something, that there's the hook, there's the, and it's unconscious unless you become aware of it, unless you become aware that that is what you're consciously
You cut
looking.
out for a second.
Oh, sorry. I said that
You cut out.
oh, am
I
I
couldn't
back?
understand you.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you now. We could hear you, but it was just like like the bandwidth was a little slow, so it kind of sounded like a robot. So you might have to repeat that last part that you said.
I can't remember what I said now.
It's okay. We were talking about the father, the animus,
Oh, okay. So
and relationships.
I was talking about how there has to be something that's familiar when either sex is looking for the partner. What they see in the
Yes.
other person has to be familiar. There
Yes,
has
I
to
feel
be,
that. Yeah.
yeah, there has to be some kind of hook, even if it's negative, even if it's that there's emotional insecurity, or there's emotional instability or something like that.
And
Uh,
that's why we want to fix it. We all,
yes.
like we want to fix that. A lot of women, we see that and we want to be that mother to our partners, and we want to fix their hurt. And that's also how we project hurt onto them, when we can't fix that hurt for them. We are hurt. It hurts us. We make
Mm.
ourselves martyrs, codependent in that aspect, as women. So,
I often find that people that want to do the fixing, which is most people, in
yeah,
relationships,
yeah.
most people that I've spoken to anyway, in terms of shadow work, most people that want to do the fixing, they have, in their childhoods, there has been a reversal of roles. So they've had to be
Hmm.
the parent for the
They had to be
parent.
the handmaiden.
Yeah, they had to take care of something in the
Yes,
home as children,
yes,
and so they get
yes.
used to this role of being the
Hmm.
fixer. I'm going to fix things for you, mum, don't worry about it, I'm going to do this for you. And then they continue, going around sort of like picking up people and caring for people and stuff like this. I mean, I say this, it's in within my own psyche. I know that it's part of my own psyche, so I
Well,
know
I
I
listened
recognize it.
to Dr. Romney. She's a psychologist, and she talked about that about the handmaiden, where people are raised as, you know, handmaidens when they're kids. They had to cook, they had to clean, they had to take care of all the responsibilities for their parents. And like homes and alcoholics, you know, or drug addicted homes, you know, like where the children had to be the adults, I had to be the mother, you know. So yeah, and then that plays on to where they don't know how to tell people no in their adult lives.
I think also it happens very often when there's a one parent family.
Hmm.
I think it just naturally happens. I know that when my father left, I stepped into his boots quite quickly. I was like, well, I'm gonna step up now, and I'm gonna, you know, take care of my brother and everyone.
Right, exactly.
And I think it was kind of expected, and I put
It
myself
was, it
well. It just
probably
happened
was. That's
naturally.
I know someone that he talks about that. Like he was raised in a home where his parents were together, but it was like it wasn't a very good home to say the least.
Hmm.
But he was the handmaiden. He had to cook dinner every night. He was the last one to eat, and it was expected of him. And now as an adult, it's hard for him not to take care of everybody in his vicinity and
Okay.
not want to be that knight in shining armor. You know what I mean? For a girl he doesn't even know.
I mean, what happens there is that people end up not, you know, they haven't considered what their expectations and boundaries are in relationships. And then
Right.
what happens is they give too much, and then
They give
they
way too
become
much.
terribly resentful, you know, and that they hold this sort of inner rage. Then they hold it
That's
within.
that's codependency. That is straight
Mm,
codependency, because codependency, some people look at codependency as like, oh, I'm codependent because I have to have someone help me pay for something. Or codependency in psychological terms is like your emotions are based upon what someone else does. You
mm,
know, so if someone else is not being good to you, and you make yourself a martyr for them, you give them everything, and then they're not being good to you and giving you what you want back out of that situation, then you turn on them,
mm,
and then you're like, oh, they're the narcissist, they're this, they're that, when really it's your expectations. You've made yourself into a codependent with someone that didn't, like you said, didn't say, hey, this is what I expect out of a relationship, this is what I'm going to give out of a relationship.
mm. But you
So a
know,
lot of people do that.
but also in any relationship, that there does have to be a fair exchange.
I
If
can't say the
you know,
word, but yes.
yeah, there does
Mhm.
have to, and without that fair exchange, I mean, obviously that's not the main part of a relationship. The main part is love, but there is an exchange of energy, and you know, I mean, I read somewhere that someone said something like, love is what I can do for you. You know, rather than anything else, it's more like, what can I do for you, because I need to feel loved, so what can I do for you? That's love. And it's not, that's not really what it is,
Well,
but
some people have different love languages, you know, like my love language, I guess, if I would go by that book, would be like quality time
mm,
and, you know, like touching, you know, like to feel wanted and stuff like that, you know. But
mm.
some people have a love language, they like to be bought presents, like they like to be bought things. And that's how they know someone loves them.
I
You
mean
know,
that
like I'm the type where I'm the type that will do things for people, you know, like
mm,
not necessarily buy them things, but like, you know, oh, you need help cleaning your house, I'll come over and help you, you know. And
mm.
just for friends, you know, stuff like that. Just, you know, like, or you need help, like you need somebody to pick you up, I'll pick you up. You know, that's just, you know, the the foundation of, you know, like a relationship is like the give and take, the
Yeah.
reciprocity. Yeah, I know.
Hmm.
So
I guess what I'm asking is, where does that fall under with like codependency, this idea of
ooh,
codependency, and then also the idea of fair exchange. And I guess really what it means is that, you know, there does have to be some idea about, you know, what your expectations and
yeah,
boundaries are. What will I accept from other people? There is
right.
also this quote, that we will never allow anyone to treat us worse than we treat ourselves.
That's a good quote, because we treat ourselves worse than anyone else treats us. You know, so, and that's shadow work. You know, the only way to be actually probably get over this is to do shadow work. And, you
Hmm.
know, we've talked about it a lot. You know, people they don't know how, they don't know where to start. So shadow work, it starts with the anima and the animus. You've got to know where your animus lies as a female, and a male, you've got to know what is that anima that's whispering in your ear, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, you
so
know, I'm writing the course, this shadow work course. I don't know
mhm.
what it's going to be called yet, but I've told you already, it is brilliant. But I've kind of put it into three different stages, and the second part, within the second part, is the sort of delving into the anima and animus, because there are other things beforehand that I felt that needed to be looked at, to do with the shadow and the way that our persona, and how the archetypes live within us, and how we project them out onto the world, and
Mm-hmm.
where we need to find balance and things like that. But the anima and animus, I mean, it's such a huge topic, that one in itself.
It is. It's hard to define. And I did write some stuff down. If you don't mind, I'm going to go through my little
No, it's
list if that's
fine.
cool
Yeah,
with
do,
you.
yeah.
Okay, so like the excuse me, the moon. Okay, so the anima is the feminine aspect, the part of the psyche that is directed inward in a male subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the female personality in men. It's the breath, the vital life force. The meaning of the word is soul or spirit. It is the impression of the mother, and I say impression because you don't really know your mother until you get past her anima and animus and her shadow work and see her as a real person.
Mm.
So I feel like the anima and the animus it is that voice behind us that's saying, telling us things. And what I have written down for like any kind of projections, or like how men project it or how their animus works, would be like the poster on the wall, the love song, it's the muse, it's fragments of a desire, it's the promise of the subconscious beliefs, it's the princess in the tower, the goddess image, the abstraction of the female, it's the mother within, a visual siren, it's the evil seductress, it's the Medusa, it's the naughty schoolgirl, it's Lilith, it's the one who castrates, it's a number on the wall, it is the land of lost, sorry, I said that wrong, lost in the land of women. It is the Eve submission. It is the mother wound, and it is always looking for the wound through video games, through porn, through all kinds of outside projections.
Did you say looking for the womb?
The womb, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's yeah. It's all that the womb stands for is that comfort and
The
love and
home,
security and
the
home, and
mother.
yeah, and nurturing, and not having to think about where the food comes, because the food goes straight into the stomach.
Yeah, it's a video game where you can't die.
Yes, that's a funny way to put it.
Well, seriously, I mean, like, if like, like there's song like Lana Del Rey has a song about video games, and she's
Mm.
all dressed up so feminine, and
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
just
I
like
heard
all
that.
like
Yeah,
sexual and sensual, watching the video game,
yeah.
watching him play that video game. I did all this,
Hmm.
and you're playing a video game. He can't die. He doesn't have to eat. He's got the headphone. Like, there's no other world around him but that video game.
Mm.
I've I've been
It's
there.
funny that was how you heard the song. I mean, for me, when I heard that song, I kind of felt it was more like, I don't know, it's like this undying love for him, even though he's playing his video game. She's
Exactly.
making herself so beautiful for him, and he's not even paying
Exactly.
attention.
Exactly.
But she knows that he's there for him, for her. That was my thing. That's how
She
I.
does, but she in some of the words you can hear like the chorus, like she's sarcastic. She's being sarcastic. But
I'm thinking of the lyrics of the song now. That's what I'm doing.
yeah, I'm trying to do it as well, but I've got so many lyrics in my head. Yeah. But
And one other thing you said that was very interesting, you said about the abstract of the female.
it is an abstraction. I mean, it's not the
Yes,
real
or the
female.
abstraction. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the projection is always an abstraction, isn't it?
Yeah. It's
Um,
not the real person.
it's not, and this is the difficulty, because I don't know if you ever did any internet dating, when you go on these dates, snigger, when you go on these dates, and they've obviously got some kind of profile of you, and maybe a couple of conversations, and you meet up, and then you actually get to see the person for who they really are.
Right,
And
right.
and the projection is you can fall in love just over a
An image.
text
Oh,
messaging.
believe me, I do have a profile on a dating site, and I'll get on there just to see who's messaged me, and I don't really stay on it or anything. I'll get on there and I'm like, really? Really? Like, I'm just like, seriously, are these the people that I get mad? Because they say the stupidest things, or their like handle is like Big Daddy 6ix9ine, like weird stuff, man. I'm just like, holy hell. Like, the dating scene in the United States, it blows. I mean, like, it's totally like, and especially if you're into psychology, they don't understand it, and they're always projecting that princess in the tower, that that I'm gonna save you, like you're a little girl that needs to be saved, or you're some seductress evil woman because you've got big blue eyes, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's always a projection, and you always have to fight it. And I used to get mad about it, but then I understand now that they can't help it. They're not trying to like project that onto me because that's what they think I am, because that's what's going on in them, not within me,
Hmm.
you know?
I mean,
So
I guess there are certain things that will kind of allow for those projections to happen. Like I mean, I guess
you're right,
if
yes.
someone is very sort of if someone's very beautiful,
And
um,
sexual, if you show any skin
yeah,
whatsoever, there's always going to be some
yeah,
sort of projection. If you don't show skin, there's
hmm,
always going to be some sort of projection. Can't
yeah,
get away from it.
yeah. I guess, yeah. I mean, maybe it'd be the opposite. You know, it would be the opposite kind of projection. It would
Hmm.
be, you know, that they think you're I don't know, a head teacher of school or
Right.
something.
You're a prude.
I guess that
You're that crone.
we all make assumptions anyway, don't we? And we do judge people on, you know, they say that we make judgments the first 3 seconds that we meet someone,
We
and I
do.
guess we make judgments even for people online. Do we like them? Do we not like them? It happens very very quickly.
So
Do we not
quickly.
like their voice? You know,
Right? We don't like their voice. We don't like the way they held their mouth, you know, like
or we
so many. We don't
take
like the way they said a certain word, or they
yeah.
didn't spell something correctly. I don't know.
Or they seem like they dribbled slightly when they said that. That's not fun.
You know, or they just, you know, they're just complete like gone. Like there's no soul, there's no spark of life in there whatsoever, you know.
Well,
But
that's most people. I'd say that
yeah,
that's a lot of different people.
yeah. So like,
Um,
do you want the animus, the animus, the
hmm,
sun, masculine? It's giving, it's action, it's the mind, it's the senses, it's the logical thought, it's the yang to the yin.
mhm,
You know, it's straight lines. So it's the princess and, you know, the tower, because the princess in the tower, I've said it for the anima and the animus, because it can be a projection that a man places on a woman, and it could be a woman who is projecting that out onto the world. And you know, it's hard to say sometimes which is which,
mhm,
you know. And you know, I think the animus, okay, so the difference in my opinion with the anima and the animus in the definitions and all the stuff that I've looked at is the anima is the part of the psyche that is directed inwards, and the animus for women is the part of the psyche that is directed outwards, because it's the masculine, you know, masculine energies of
mm,
light and dark, you know, it's projected
yeah,
outwards. So
yeah,
I feel that
mm.
our animus is not so much us looking and reflecting inwards. I feel like we have to battle the animus that we put out into the world with our actions, with how we speak, with who we are. You know, we're naturally introverted as women. So
Well, I wouldn't say we're not all introverted as women.
no, we're not all in touch with it, but naturally we should be.
I'm not sure about that. I
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
I agree with that. Uh, I guess in terms of I guess in terms of archetypally, you're talking like sun and moon, inwards, outwards, that sort of thing. That's what you mean, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, 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 yes. I'm not
yeah,
talking about like personality types. I'm not talking about
mm,
introverted or extroverted. I'm talking about like in nature, women are the
yeah,
container
yes, yeah,
naturally,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
You're right. Um, okay, so let's have a look at this. So we've kind of spoken about sort of traditionally sort of masculine and feminine traits.
Hmm.
Should we talk about? All right, so we have this question: has the world been shaped by the men's anima?
Well, if we look at that the man's anima is an inward call, and it is also like a visual thing that they have, that they
Mhm,
project out onto the world from their mother, you know, then I would say that, yeah, a man's anima does build his world, you know, like the way he has his creative aspect comes from the anima, you know, the
mhm,
receptiveness of spirit comes from the anima, you know, it's still the feminine aspect of a man, right?
mhm,
So like it's receptive, it's creative, it's intuitive feeling, it thinks in circles, it thinks in, you know, round shapes, you know, like as I'm talking about the female energy, you know, so like if it's inward in towards the men, and the men like think about what their animus does to them,
Mm-hmm.
it would be that woman is the princess in the tower, or that woman is the goddess, or this situation needs to be, designed differently, because of how they feel within themselves. The Lost in the Land of Women. Okay, your last episode, your guest was talking about RuPaul and drag queens and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. That's what that would be. Lost in the Land of Women is that they are lost in their anima. Like they've gone to the point where they are turned into a female, like outsideward, because
Mm.
that's what they think females are. Okay, sorry about that. I had to clear my throat. But yeah, so like I've been around a lot of drag queens throughout my experiences in life, and men do project, like in this world that we live in, where they're like the left is pushing like transgenderism and stuff like that. Men see women as just an image,
Mm.
like they wear makeup and they wear pretty pink things, and they want to look like a woman, but it's really just the look, and it is
Mm-hmm.
their anima. So it's not something that it's lost in the land of women, and I think some men can do it without being like full drag queen or transvestite. I think some men get lost in the land of women because there has been a feminization of men nowadays,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with not just with their foods and psychology, but like they get lost in their anima because they don't understand what the anima is, so they feel that there may be that they are women because they're lost in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, with the visual siren and the poster on the wall, and, it's what they see in women.
Mm.
So I think it could coincide with how they build the world.
Well, with transvestites, I mean, or transgender, I don't know what the
Well,
correct term is. I
one's
don't know what the correct term is, but with those, I mean, very often let's just say drag queens, they will always kind of go on the very negative aspects of the feminine. They'll go for the
mm-hmm,
dark mother, they'll be like the most sort of ludicrous
mm-hmm,
makeup and the
mm-hmm,
hair and the kind of and the bitchiness and the
mm-hmm,
over
mm-hmm,
sexualization.
mm-hmm.
They're not
And that is their anima.
that is part of what
Say
the
that
yeah
again.
their projection of their inner feminine, but it is a very sort of negative and distorted
Mm-hmm,
idea of
mm-hmm,
what a woman
mm-hmm.
is,
That's the
and
abstraction.
it's an abstraction. I mean, I guess, it's maybe archetypal as well. um and I think actually, I mean, what I'm seeing on the internet, or I guess on Facebook quite a lot lately, is there's a lot of information about the true kind of psychology, the negative aspects of female psychology, which I think is really important. Um, but I do worry sometimes that we could be going too far, and not seeing a woman for the balance that she hopefully, even if she's not, that she perhaps aspires to be. Um,
Right. So
because
go ahead.
I just think that that because we have polarities and duality in all
Mm-hmm.
things, in masculine, in men and in women.
Right.
It has to be represented for what it really is.
Exactly.
And I said to you the other day, that I watched the film Eyes Wide Shut, and I was really
Mm-hmm.
disappointed because I wanted to see some real sort of secret, all the
Yeah, you were like, oh,
secret.
I want to see the Illuminati out in
Yeah, I
public.
did. I want to see all of the weird shit they get up to. But actually, it was more about a relationship between this man and this woman, that they were getting, they weren't very sort of sexually happy with each other, and they were about to go off with someone else, but it just didn't work out that way. But there was a scene in it where the woman, she goes absolutely nuts, just completely ballistic, and she's like half dressed, and she's on the floor, and she's like, kind of kicking and screaming and getting really cross about nothing. And she created a big scene, and she's highly emotional and
Mm-hmm.
completely incoherent and just ridiculous. And I sat there and I thought, oh my god, I recognize that.
Yeah.
I've seen,
Oops, I've done that one.
I've seen that before. And I thought, right, okay, so there is most definitely an aspect of female psychology that, you know, that there is a crazy side. And I spoke
There
to you
is.
yesterday about especially, and I'm finding in menstruation, but you know, the week before my menstruation, my moods are really badly affected, and I can get very, very cross, and you know, to the point
Yeah.
where I'm taking this starflower oil. I'm taking like six times the normal recommended dose because I just don't want to get
Right.
there anymore. But it's a real
Right.
problem. It's not like,
It is.
it's not an excuse. I know it's not an excuse for I know, poor perception, poor behavior, but it's most definitely a reality for a lot of
It is a
women.
reality. It's not, well, see, and women don't even really want to use it as an excuse. Like we ourselves are like, oh, we don't get moody before our period. No, that's not our period. You know, we
Well,
get
I don't know.
offended. Oh, you know, like, oh, no, no, no. You know, but no, it's true though. Like a week before, ask any female, a week before their period, they are emotional, no matter if it's all cry teary or they're mean or they're like unbelievably, I'm
Bitchy.
just going to be well, bitchy and horny at the same time. It's like a push pull. It's a push pull. And, you know, and then after it's done, said with, we're all like, oh, wow, did I really do that? Did I really act like that? You
Mm.
know, like, was that really me? Oh my God, thank God I had my period because I feel so much better now, you know?
And it's a real it's a real problem. It's a problem for us. It's a problem for our families as well, because you
Yes.
know, everyone has to kind of I guess
Understand that, you know, that's not really
understand.
her. That's that mad crone inside of her.
But I guess also it is about really knowing, and it's about knowing
It's,
yourself, and understanding when you feel that way. You know, finding kind of ways to cope with it and to deal with it,
yeah.
and to work with it, because it can be very, very harsh. I mean, I found actually that starflower oil is very, very good, very useful.
Yeah.
So that's something that, yeah,
Yeah. So
people take
like
a
I
lot.
think that's a problem in the world is like I think that we as women don't really talk about that a lot. Is like how our bodies do affect our emotions and our psychology a lot more than we want to give it credit. You know, like from the time we hit puberty, from the time we hit the crone age to where we don't have a moon cycle anymore. Every month we have to deal with this. Every month we have to decide, is this really how I feel about a certain situation, or is this just my hormones?
Yeah, and I
You
mean,
know?
we said actually yesterday that it is like, we once you start when you're a teenager, or you know, younger, for a lot of girls, it's a continuation of a cycle of life and death that's
Yes.
continuing all
Yes.
the time. I
Yes.
mean, every time you menstruate, it's like it's an egg that hasn't been
And it feels like death
impregnate. Yeah,
sometimes.
impregnate. Yeah, it does. It impregnates. You haven't what's the word? You haven't impregnated that
Right. You know, you
that egg.
release that death
Yeah.
that your body
Well,
has made,
well,
you know?
yeah, because it was a potential for life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It
Um,
was a potential.
and it
Ooh,
hurts,
interesting.
and it hurts, and it, you know, there are lots of different kind of symptoms of the body that I don't know, that are very difficult to deal with, like the backache and the headaches, and the, you know, and as well as all the sort of emotional stuff as well, and
It's,
it's
yeah,
painful.
it is.
And it's, I get, I mean, it's no excuse for I don't know, for, I mean, once you know about it and you know about how to deal with it, then, you know, we have to be, you know, as careful as we can be, but
We
it is
do.
something to take into consideration. And also that women can be very um, highly emotional,
Yes.
and difficult.
We are highly emotional and we are difficult, and I don't know if it is because we are not completely centered within our psychology between the masculine and the feminine aspects of us, you
Mm,
know, like, but women are emotional, women are crazy, women do crazy things because of their hormones, and guys don't understand it. We act certain ways, we're bitchy, and they feel like we're just always that way, you know, like we project so much when we're around that time, you know, our
mm,
emotions, like we project that hurt all the time to everybody, you
mm,
know, like if, you know, if we're not in a good way, you know, but when our bodies are lost in its chemicals, you know, and our balances are off, then yeah, it's really hard to stay focused on whether you should be like that or not. You know what I mean? Because certain,
mm.
especially nowadays, certain situations are going to put you like you might snap just because, in not bad way, but just like that emotion, might get to you all of a sudden, it comes on real quick sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
just like anger. We wanted to talk about anger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think as well, like it is how what is the best way, kind of forward with it, because it's something that we know about, and I guess all you can do is make provision for it, and just when you feel it within yourself, is to let everyone know, I'm feeling this way, I'm just letting you all know,
Yeah,
because
it's my moon cycle.
yeah, but then again, it's not an excuse as well. It's not an excuse to to interrupt the flow of the whole house as well, or to upset people. It's
Well,
not
no,
an
it's
excuse.
not an excuse to interrupt the whole house. And I think that's where our society has misrepresented what women really are.
Mm,
Like are we supposed to be men nowadays? Like, I mean, like if we can't help that we are going through those cycles throughout most of our lives, like how are we expect to be in the world of men?
mm,
you know in my opinion, like I feel like women have been masculinized, not so much feminized, and I say that just from interacting with women my age through for the past 20 years. I know more masculine women than I know real feminine women. I'm pretty a masculine person as far as in my actions and the way I am in the world.
mm,
So I think that in order for us to really get in touch with being a woman, then we're going to have to understand the part about being a woman is our bodies just
hmm.
as much as it is our minds.
I mean, I think that like our culture and society have kind of shaped us this way as well.
Yes.
I think just the very fact that mothers came away from the home, away from looking after their children. I think, and for me, I mean, maybe I am a traditionalist in that way, that I do think, or I do know, or I feel at least that that children do need their mothers. And I've been working with children for almost 20 years now, and I was always surprised when, whenever I met new parents, which I've met thousands, hundreds, thousands, probably, or I don't know, hundreds, but anyway. But I've met so many parents, and when the mother says that they're only a stay-at-home mum, I'd be like, wow,
That's
to
hard.
say I'm only, because, and they'd feel kind of guilty
They
that
do,
they should
and
be
they're
out
made to
working.
feel that way. They're made to
Yeah,
feel that way in the
there's
society, is that
shame about that,
they
and
are, oh,
it's
you just stay
ridiculous.
at home and take care of kids. Ugh, why
Yeah,
didn't you cook,
like it's
clean,
nothing.
take care of everything all day long? Because I have 4 kids to run around. I gotta make sure they don't destroy everything.
But this is it. I mean, society kind of would deem it unacceptable for a mother to to be a stay-at-home mum, and unless
Or
the
for just
father
a
is
woman
making
in
so
general.
much. Yeah, I think so. And even people that work part-time, there's also a stigma about that. I don't know if it's the same in America, but most definitely in England, if you work part-time, there's this thing like, oh, aren't you contributing to society?
Oh, I
Like,
get that all the time because I'm an artist. I have strived not to like be in a slave job. I cannot handle
mm-hmm,
sitting at a desk for 8 hours making minimum wage because I don't, like, coming from a poor family, I don't have a education that I could go and build, get a good job.
mm-hmm,
So I do have to take crap jobs, if I want to really work.
mm-hmm.
So like, and that's why I decided years ago that, I like doing my art, and I make just as much money doing my art without a full-time job as I do with a full-time job at minimum wage.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's
Yeah. I
thank God
mean,
for
like if I
that.
really put a lot of effort into it, I could probably make more. So
Mm.
like, but that's, a lot of people have those viewpoints that women are supposed to just be like men. Like we're supposed to know how to fix a car. We're supposed to, be just as intellectual as men are. And that's not how a woman's body works. Women are more intuitive than men are. So, we use more of our right brains more than men do. I think that's right. I might be wrong on that, but
The
there's a
right
split.
brain is the creative.
Yeah, we are like naturally being born a woman, we are going to be more intuitive. Whether women use that in today's society or not, that's a
Hmm.
different story. But we are the container. And, it's like in the Hermetic principles of dualism, all is gender, and it is the inhale and the exhale, it is the, it's the combination of the energies coming together that gives us the ascension, the a spiritual enlightenment that we all are looking for. So in my point of view, I feel like we are going to have to bring balance, the anima and the animus, through that, to be better people, to even be as spiritual as we all claim we are.
Yeah. I think it all kind of goes back down to a balance of traditionally sort of feminine and masculine traits. And I've got some written here, actually. I'll
Mm-hmm.
just read through them. So the natural feminine is the unconditional love, the
Mm-hmm.
understanding, nurturing, tenderness, kindness, intuitiveness, creativeness, feeling, stillness, flow, radiance, surrender, sensitivity, emotional ease, and allowing. And so the natural masculine would be confidence, inner strength, responsibility, focus, logical, support, stability, direction, projection, clarity, boundaries, courage, determination, principle, discipline, capable, certain, and assertive. So those are like the natural masculine and feminine. But I've also got here the wounded feminine,
Oh,
a wounded stroke unconscious feminine versus
yes.
the wounded stroke unconscious masculine. So the wounded is the victim. This is the feminine. Victim, powerless, weakness, manipulation, withholding, needing, codependency,
Mm-hmm.
oversensitivity, and over emotional.
Yes.
So I mean, the
Yes.
wounded feminine. This is what comes up for us once a month, isn't it?
Yes, yes, and we are always lost in a fight, and that's in what I see in society right now with like uh, the the neo feminism, is that all the women that are in that group are lost in fighting, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's where our animus comes out, is in our fighting. And it's all, it's, you know, it's, we're like, you know, we're the, you know, we have to prove a point, we have to be the man, you know, we have to be that authority figure, especially when we're going through that time of the month, because we know our bodies, and we're like, you know, we don't want to be going through it, but we
Mm-hmm.
have to, you know, it's something we have to face every month. And it's hard. It's
I'll
hard
just
to face your emotions and to bring out that masculine will force, you know, we want to
mm.
lay in bed for the, you know, for a couple of days. Yeah.
I'll just read the wounded masculine. So we've got perpetrator, abuse of power, dominance, aggression, control, competitive, confrontation, criticism, abuse, avoidance, unsupportive, and unstable.
Yes.
So that's the I guess the negative or unconscious or wounded masculine. So the
Yes. That's
uh,
their wounded anima that
mm,
comes out. Yeah. And through those aspects. Yes.
So yes, I mean we're very complex. I mean the thing is with all of this, I mean that there's it's like a fractal, isn't it? You keep on going and
Yes.
keep on going.
Fractals. Yes.
But at the same time, it's like I do believe also that we have been somehow designed perfectly to complement each other. If you know, if had we had the right role models and the right instruction and the right culture and support and traditions and all those things
Yes.
and that connection to the you know to the earth and to nature and all those things, you know, I think that we have been designed it perfectly for man and woman to help each other and support each other through procreation and to support each other in life together as couples. But I think that because of the way that we live currently and our culture and our traditions and not having any role models, I mean, no one I know has had, or maybe one person has had a very good role model for what looks like a real loving, nurturing relationship between a man and a woman.
Right.
I don't know anyone who has that.
I don't either. I don't know one who's ever had a perfect past, or
So,
who's ever
so,
had the perfect parenting, you know?
but it leads me to a question: is like, is there such a thing? So there's either is there such a thing, or do we have to create it, or does it look completely different to um, what we
Is
have?
there supposed to be such a
Is
thing?
there supposed to be a thing? Yeah.
No, I mean, in order for us to grow as individuals, and like you would say, the individuation process, we would have to go through that process in order to be the whole being that we are, right? I mean, we would
Mm,
have to be able to, I mean, a seed gets planted in the dirt, you know?
mm,
It's in order for it to grow. I mean, if we look at nature and men and women, you know, women are the earth, the man is the one that plants the seed, and the tree of life is the knowledge of all those experiences brought together in the fractal universe. You know,
mm.
we are divided individuals, and that's in why Carl Jung would say, you know, like the individuation process, right? Like we have to individualize in order for really to us to know who we really are, right? We've
That's
got to
it.
have that.
Yeah, I mean, and part of that is the introspection that happens with shadow work. It's yeah, it's to become, basically to become all that we have potential to be, because everyone has got, you know, we all have limits of what we have potential for, but it is about kind of finding out who we really are underneath the ego and underneath our
All of it,
social
yeah.
and cultural conditioning, and what we've been taught, and you know, the parenting that we've suffered or that we've experienced, you know, and the patterns that we keep on creating throughout our lives. There really is so much. There's so
There
much.
is so much. And with the way that the church, the Christianity and the you know, the Catholicism and the church places the Eve projection onto women, that we're supposed to be the submissive ones, and you know, and the Lilith, like if you don't want to be the one, you know, that's submissive, then you're the evil goddess who's here to castrate us, you know. Like, so
Mm-hmm.
we have had to deal with all the archetypes as well, of those archetypes, you know, to be submissive. It's not be that you know, like that go-getter, you know, through thousands of years. And now past what, you know, 50, 60 years, women are like being that go-getter. And
Mm.
yeah, our animus is messed up, you know, the
Yeah.
man inside of us is messed up.
Yeah.
And it's from cycles and cycles and cycles of other messed up beings, you know, those
Mm.
little Russian dolls, you know, the one inside the each other, you know, it's like you open one and there's another one, you open it, you know, you just keep opening the dolls, you know. So like that's what we are, you know. If we really think about like our our own psychology, we are split between so much, and we have dual thoughts and feelings, and it's like a dual sword fight every day with one person within themselves, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And to do shadow work, in my opinion, is the only way to get past, like, why am I doing this? Or why would I tell myself that? Why would I put myself in that situation? You know,
That's the
like, do
biggest
I view
question, is
myself that
why.
way?
Mm. You
You
know,
know?
when I first heard about this idea of the divine feminine, it was in 2014. I remember exactly where I was. I was on the course of the Carl Jung course in Ireland, and I remember them talking about the divine feminine and talking about how, you know, because we've grown up in this sort of patriarchal society, you know, that's been going on for the past, you know, since Jesus was born,
Mm-hmm.
the past 2,000 years, that you know, that women have suffered under the hands of it. And so what we've seen more recently is like this sort of what are they called, I don't know, the new sort of the ultra feminist movements.
A backlash from it.
Yeah, so I mean that they've kind of become very, very powerful and dominant, to the point where they're kind of men are giving up or renouncing their masculinity,
Yeah, it's
and say
sad.
and saying that, you know, that there is no place for, you know, all of those sort of masculine traits. Well, there absolutely is.
There has to be.
There
I mean,
has to
if
be, and we need
there has
men
to be in a
that are
balance.
going to be men, and we need women that are going to be women. But
Yes,
we need to also to find the balance within. I mean, and that's what I've learned from, you know, studying Carl Jung,
yes.
is that that's, you know, that we need to find that balance within us. It's
It's
not that
that
I'm saying that we
that
need to start becoming like the inferior sex, the women become the inferior sex, but
yeah.
that's not it.
We're not the inferior sex, and men are not the inferior sex.
No.
We are not created equally. We are not, our chemicals are different. The way we move in the world is different. How we process information is different. And like a female's animus that has not been looked at within herself, she's going to fight and fight and fight, and she's going to push that she's feminine when every action that she puts out is masculine.
But, you know,
You
also, I
know,
mean, the idea of the Trinity is,
the Trinity,
if you
yeah.
imagine like a single man and a single woman get
Hmm.
together, and they don't just become like two different people, they almost become like
The one, like the two
one.
become one.
And
Yes,
it's almost like they give birth to a third, and not in
that's
terms of having
fractal.
a baby, but together they become like almost a third person, because
Yeah,
together they kind of they vibe off of each other, and they bring out different things in each other, and
they
so
do. They
and
do.
so you
And that's a
become
big
slightly
issue
different.
in dating and society is, you know, we spoke about it yesterday, how certain people, like in relationships, will bring out the negative or the positive in certain people. Like if you get in a relationship and this person makes you like crazy, but this person doesn't. And it's not because of you, or, well, I mean, yeah, it's because of you, but it's the the balance between y'all's energies and the way you
Mm-hmm.
move around in the world, you know? So like, it's so, you can't say just because you think someone's pretty that y'all are going to make it. Yeah.
No, no, that's infantile thinking, I think.
Yes. Yes. And,
Uh,
and women do it as well. Women do it, you know,
mm-hmm.
it's not just men, but it's both.
Yeah. Okay, so we've spoken about crazy women. I spoke
Mhm.
about Eyes Wide Shut and how we can, that I guess we have
We
to
are
down to
crazy.
already.
If a girl denies that she is not crazy, she is definitely real crazy.
I
Yeah, like
think I think that we can be it can happen. It can happen once a month at least, at the very least.
yeah.
But we spoke yesterday a little bit about this idea that in a relationship, um, what I found for myself and other people that I've spoken to, that I've worked with, is that the partner sometimes becomes like, what do we call it, the enemy. So
The
and
enemy.
this is very much like for a woman's point of view, the animus projection, or the animus at least kind of talking to the woman when she's not looking. So kind of filling her head with negative ideas about the partner that they've got, because the animus wants to keep the inner masculine animus wants to keep the woman for himself. It's a very
Hmm.
strange thing, and I mean,
It is.
who would have known this without Carl Jung's work? No, nobody
Thank
would
you,
have.
Carl.
No one would have known this. And I recognize it in myself sometimes, this idea that the partner is like the enemy. And you do have to question yourself. So there's this idea with shadow work that give expression to all of what you feel, every emotion, every thought and idea, but it's not all true. You have to use you have to decipher what's true and what's
Y-
not, what's coming from
Yeah,
ego,
yeah.
what's
You've
coming
got to
from.
know yourself or you'll self-sabotage.
Yeah, but also that can be very difficult. It's difficult to sort of differentiate between the many voices that talk
It
inside your head.
is. It is. And earlier I said it's the anima and the animus is the one that stands behind the shadow. It's that call. It's that inner voice telling you the good stuff and the bad stuff.
Mm,
And women are crazy because we listen to that animus and we don't know what it is. It is that masculine inside of us that says, no, you're right. No, keep pushing that, no, no,
mm,
no, like, don't stop, it's like that person's bad for you. Or, when you don't even know that person yourself, like it's just, it's reading the cover and not the book.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. So I was going to say something. It's come out of my head.
don't you hate that? But women are
Yeah.
crazy in so many aspects when it comes to relationships, because I think of this that Eve archetype and that Lilith archetype, and sometimes we get lost in those archetypes. We want to be that submissive woman, but the world doesn't really let us be that submissive woman in certain
Mm,
situations. Like I've been in a relationship that made me feel really feminine, and I wanted to be really nurturing, and was just like, oh, let me take care of you. And not because he was needed to be taken care of, just
mm,
because that's how he made me felt.
mm,
But in other relationships, I feel more like the man, like I'm the one that's having to do everything by myself. I'm the one that's having to start, like initiating things, work,
mm,
whether it be work or just household stuff. I felt like I was the more masculine one in some of these relationships, and men were really feminine. They run from confrontation. They're scared of any kind of emotion or any kind of, like, not even emotion, but just like an issue. You know what I mean? They're scared of those hard emotions,
mm.
you know?
I mean, I'm a bit of a brick wall in terms of emotions. So I find it really hard to let them out, and I do have to make a huge effort to try and release whatever is
Hmm.
going on in me. And when I do, it's usually a big deal for me, and I need to be
Yeah.
alone for it, and I need to not have it, and I couldn't stand to have anyone near me when when I'm going through it. It's a very private affair for me. But then, I mean, I think that there are a lot of my masculine is very highly developed, and I think, but most of the women that I know would be a lot more sort of emotional than I
Well,
am.
right. Well, see, like I think that it really all depends on your birth chart, on what kind of energies that
Mm,
are flowing through your subconscious. I'm like, like I have 4 planets in the fourth house in Sagittarius, and the fourth house is Cancer. It's the mother. It's real sensitive. And so like I have a lot of fiery, chaotic emotions in one area of my birth chart. And I definitely have to decipher, like, is that my, like, is this right? Or, am I being like with truth within myself, or should I stand, like it's just a lot of chaotic emotions that I have to figure out. And a lot of people don't want to figure out those emotions, being masculine. And like, I would be considered, I call myself a hard, soft woman. Like I could be really sensitive. I've always been sensitive. Even my daughter calls me a crybaby, but I'm also the one that will tell you when I'm upset. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also the one that's going to tell you, like when I'm not upset, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to show every emotion that I possibly can show, but that's
Mm-hmm.
how I've always been. So I'm on the opposite end. I have to like contain my emotions. I have to make sure, but I'm masculine in the sense of the way I am with people, as far as in like the way I talk, the way I like move, like the way
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of, like my Mars is, in Sagittarius in the fourth house as well. So like when I'm mad, I can be really masculine. So
Yeah, I remember this when I was when I was in my late 20s. I went traveling with my cousin, and I've always been very sort of on top of my emotions. I'd say kind of I'm very empathetic, but I'm not overly emotional and not overly expressive. And I know this about myself, but I remember when I was younger thinking, because she's very emotional. She's Scorpio. But she was terribly emotional, and I remember thinking initially that it was such a weakness that she had this affliction, but
that's what my
actually,
sister used to treat me. My sister
but
used to treat me like that.
at the end, I knew that she was so much more better developed than I was, and she was a good bit younger than me, but she knew she was emotionally intelligent, and she had a way to release everything that came up, where with me it's like kind of it sticks here, it sticks
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
it
yeah.
sticks there.
Like I don't, I used to, when I was, maybe like 10 years ago, I wouldn't release as much emotion, because I was taught over the years that emotion is weakness. Like, oh, you cried because someone disrespected you or someone hurt your feelings. I mean, and it could be nothing, or it could be a really big deal, at what, depending on what they did, you know what I mean? So like it's hard to say, it's hard to tell someone else what they shouldn't be emotional about, because you can't really feel that inside of them. You really don't know what kind of chemicals are going so you have no clue if it's just an overreaction or if it's really that bad, you know what I mean?
To be honest,
So
when I was that age, I wasn't conscious at all. I was completely I didn't know anything. But my ideas were different then. But I mean,
yeah,
I see what I'm trying to say is that people that can express their emotions. I mean, I find I think it's a benefit to you.
I think it's a benefit to me. I
Mm-hmm.
see it also as it deflects a lot of people from me. I see, especially men, because like if I show that I'm mad, because normally I'm pretty happy and goofy and like try to be a comedian or something, most of the time, and I'm always like listening to music. But when I'm mad, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll show it, and I'm not scared to show it. And if I have something to say, I'll say it. And they don't know how to take that, because it's like complete opposite of what I was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could be like with something that makes me mad, I'm gonna show, and something makes me happy, I'm gonna show it. So it's not, I feel I feel that I feel all emotions,
Mm.
and that I'm supposed to feel those emotions. So,
Oh, you
and
definitely
it's been
are if they're there.
hard to put that into the world, because I have been made to feel like I was weak because of my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sometimes they are wrong. I'm not saying that they're always right, not at all. But because that's what makes us women crazy, is because we don't know how to handle our emotions sometimes.
And
You
how
know.
how is the best? What would you say is the best way to handle your emotions?
Well, I mean, I guess really it would be the situation. I mean, you can't really say, can't give a general assumption for like something like that, because it all comes on at certain things. Certain thing could trigger someone else that wouldn't trigger someone else. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So it's so hard, and that's why people do have to do their own shadow work, and it is personal, so you can know yourself and know your own triggers.
Hmm. I guess
And
I'd say that whatever emotions come up need to be looked at, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily what's the word? That I guess it's about deciphering the message within it. you know,
Right. Yes.
and
Yes.
deciding, sometimes, sometimes you might have an emotion because you feel that you've been treated wrongly, and then after a time of maybe speaking to that person and realizing your part in that problem, then you can realize that actually, that those tears were, not, they weren't
Right.
well placed or something like that. but
Right.
but
And
but, but
that's
it but it's still, because the emotion's there, it still needs to be expressed, it still needs to say.
right. It needs to be expressed. And I think that's where men misconstrue women's emotions. Like we still have to express it, because if we bottle it up, it just gets worse. And that's where the violence comes out, like where our animus gets mad, if we keep bottling up stuff and bottling up stuff, it just, then it spills over everything.
But also for men as well, I mean, this is exactly the same for men,
Yes, that is
and this,
very,
yeah, and this is where we need to be very careful, because we're talking about women and how sort of emotional we are, but they too have, emotions that they're not kind of socially, it's not socially acceptable for them to express them, and that is something that,
it's not.
it's not right, it's not right. They
No,
have
because if us women are getting called weak because we have emotions, we're women. We
to.
have emotions because our body gives, like our periods and stuff go crazy every month. I can only imagine being a male and having some sort of emotion and trying to talk to your male friends from like that are in their 60s. They don't understand, like they're like that what is it, that thought that has been placed on men that they're not supposed to express emotion,
Hmm.
so they make us feel weak because of it. So I can only imagine how they make men feel because of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Cheryl, me and you are going to be having a few more discussions over the next
Mhm.
few months, aren't we?
Yes.
We
Yes.
haven't decided quite on what we're going to be talking about, but we will be talking. We've got a few other ideas and stuff, so we're going to get back to chat another time.
You want to talk about shadow work?
Yeah, go on. We end on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like shadow work, it would be different for everyone. Some people can go into their creative side and bring out their shadow work. I think some people would have to go into their body more to bring out their shadow work. Shadow work, like you said yesterday, you have to feel it. What was the quote Michael Tassarian said?
In order to heal yourself, you have to do it yourself, and not.
Yeah, you have to do it yourself, and you have
Yeah.
to feel it too. Like
Hmm.
shadow work isn't someone that, or something that you can be like, oh, well, I'm gonna do this one time and then I'll be healed. It's not something. It's a process, just like everything else. It's a
Mm.
cycle, like you said earlier, just like everything else. And there's this saying going around, in order to heal it, you have to feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other one is that I've just recently put on something, is that the only way out is through. It's to say that, and as I said, I think at the beginning of this chat, is that, whenever I heal people, they come to me with all of their pains and they expect that I'm going to say something that's going to make them feel better. It's like, no, I can't do that for you. You have to go through
No.
it. You have to actually sit and try and make yourself go deeper into that feeling.
Deeper
And
into that feeling. And I
yeah.
guess because I am so sensitive, you asked me earlier about my shadow work.
Hmm.
My shadow work is really deep, and yeah, I can be sensitive and I can be crybaby sometimes, but when I go to true shadow work, it is in my bed. It is yeah, I don't want to be around nobody. It's hard. It feels like death. It really does. It
Hmm.
feels like, because if I can be just happy and all emotional, like on the polar end of, I can just go as far as on this end too,
Hmm.
and I think that's, with Hermetic teachings and ancient teachings, like, we all have to have we are polar and we do need that balance. So, but shadow work brings that balance, and being able to go from this side to back to this side to bring it to the middle.
Hmm.
So shadow work is hard, and shadow work is a process that's excruciating. Shadow work is the mirror that is placed in front of you to show you yourself.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I'm sure you've got lots of other things that you could
Yeah,
say about
well,
shadow work.
yeah, I
You've dealt with a
mean,
lot more people and I've only got my own experience on what shadow work is.
I
So,
mean, and on that basis of my own experiences is how I've been able to kind of help other people with it, because it was such a sort of profound experience for myself, that I realized that, I could actually help myself, and I could do something about the situation that I was in, and the headspace that I was in. And I think one of the hardest things for me was realizing the lies that I told myself, about myself and about my
Mm-hmm.
situation and all the people
Mm-hmm.
around me, and how I'd kind of vilified everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and then and also felt guilty for it as well. Felt sort of guilty in that it was all my fault, and so just all this kind of, all these contradictions are there,
Right.
and so and so it's like, who would want to go through this, but without going through it, you don't get to, to see who you are, the truth of who you are. You don't get to kind of grow in consciousness and all those things, and you don't I mean, but one thing that I've said before about shadow work is that you get to feel more, sadness, and you get to feel more joy, than
Yes.
ever before.
Yes, yes, yes. And and I used to have guilt and shame because I was so sensitive. But that is something that I've realized, one day, like, I could be going through some really deep shadow work, and then like a couple days later, I felt better than I ever had before. And it was all
Yeah,
because of that shadow work. It's all
yeah.
because of that release,
Hmm.
that knowing that no matter no matter what crap happens to me in my life and what I've put myself in, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything, no matter what, everything's going to be okay. When you do that shadow work, you know that things are going to be okay. You know that if you've done shadow work enough and you've dug down deep and you've hit that pit inside of you and you've wanted to die because of that shadow work, and you come up the next day feeling better, best believe that next time is going to be harder. That
Really?
next time you have to do that
Oh,
shadow
you're
work, it's
really
going to be
selling it,
harder.
Cheryl. You're really selling it.
I know, right? So you better really want to do that shadow work. You better want to get into it. You better want to dive head first,
I mean,
or we're going to call you something. No, I'm joking.
to be honest, I mean, what I found for myself is that, um, what I found is that it doesn't get worse. What I found is that it was bad for the first year. I mean, and it was really, really bad for the first year. And then and I had to sit with all the contradictions around me. I had to just,
Mm-hmm.
it felt like I
Mm-hmm.
had like little pieces of myself all scattered around the place,
Yes, yes,
and it fragmented is the only word I can use. I
yes.
was fragmented, and I had to then start to rebuild and understand why all the things that happened to me and how they had led to all of the situations that I was currently facing. But now what I find is that on the odd occasion, when I do some shadow work for myself, and I did some recently in here, and I was crying, and I found myself really sort of like from the very pit of my stomach crying, and I wasn't even making a sound, but it was just like, like it
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
real
And
sort of
you're
gutting
like, you
feeling.
look at yourself and you're like, oh my God.
No, I didn't look at myself, Cheryl. I
I
don't get
did.
the mirror.
I've looked at myself when I was crying. The last time I went through some shadow work, I was like, holy hell. Like, this is not pretty.
That's so funny. That's like what children do to make themselves cry more.
I know, right? I'm so ugly. No, but like shadow work is really, yeah, you do. It does get easier. I was just being a little exaggerated, when I said that. It just, it gets harder. It gets harder, but it gets easier to get over. It doesn't take as long.
I
That's
mean,
pretty much what I
one
meant.
thing that you just said a minute ago, which is I absolutely agree, is that after that crying fit, the next day I felt so much better.
Yeah, and
Like it was like, it's like it never happened. It was like all of the stress that I've been carrying for such long. I don't even know how long I was carrying this, because I felt like I had like armoring. I had like this kind of this chest plate on me, this
mm-hmm,
hard thing. When
right.
I was looking for the pain within me. I was looking to find it, and I found it here. And I found it in my sort of my base chakra,
Mm-hmm.
bottom of my spine. And yeah, to get rid of that,
So
to move that out the way was it was really something else. And the next day, like a new perspective. It's like you start looking around like you got sunglasses on with a different color or something. Everything
right.
looks
It's
different.
the sun's shining brighter,
Yeah, it does.
But I guess that would be like the process of life and earth and the planetary movements. We all go through that
Mm,
moon stage, whether it be through our bodies or through our minds or through our spiritual, wants and desires. We all go through that stage of where we hit the dark and then we come up and everything's better again,
mm.
and the dawn has risen,
Yeah,
and
exactly. I
so
mean,
like shadow work it's good stuff.
it is
Don't run
good
from me,
stuff.
yeah.
I think it's the only way. It's the way to the truth anyway.
It's the only
And
way to your personal truth. You can't, like it's not truth out in the world. It's your own personal truth.
your
That's how
own
you
personal truth.
know thyself.
But I think there is something in that as well, which does kind of lead people to start asking questions about the outer world as well as, I mean, because
True.
yeah, do you think, I think it is closely linked, and I think that there are a lot of people on the group who are sort of I know, alternative researchers or truth seekers or whatever you want to call them. There are a good few on there. And I do think that there is something about, wanting to kind of heal that inside will also kind of start to shed light on what's happening outside as well.
Well, like in the Hermetic teachings, we were split, and we're always looking to find that person to fill us, to make us whole and complete, and we're all fractals. We're all the divide, we're divided with everything, with the battle of the sexes, and, just everything. And so I feel like, being fractals, of light that we are, that I feel like we can, in order to really get somewhere within us, we have to become whole and centered within ourselves in order to find that whole and centered being the other
Mm-hmm.
person. You can't be, it's like if you've done shadow work and all this stuff, you can't be in a relationship with someone that really doesn't even care about shadow work.
No. Well, do you know what? You say that. I think
Unless
that
they're really
and let me say this.
just good.
I was going to say, I don't think that if you've
You
done
can't,
this kind of introspection work, I think that you can't then get into a relationship with someone who hasn't done it. But there are a few people that I know who are in like long-term relationships or marriages, and then they start to do the inner work. And then and their relationships do
that's, yeah.
experience some trouble. There is some trouble, and of course that person will start thinking, me and him, we're not on the same wavelength anymore. Can we continue the relationship? But usually there's enough love there that the bond is strong enough
Right. Well,
that they
that's
can
different,
continue.
like with me, trying to, find a partner or whatever, trying to date someone and then talk about like my animus and like the shadow work. And they're like, what's shadow work? And like, if they have no understanding of what shadow work is, then I can't just, like, well, this is what shadow work and this is why I do it. And this is, because I don't feel that I would be doing true shadow work within, myself, if I had to explain everything, in my personal life of why I did it and, like all that, and that is hard to just go into a relationship with someone that
Yeah.
has no clue what you're talking about, being on a
I
level.
actually think it's impossible. I think
It
especially
is.
someone your level of shadow work that you've done. I don't think it would ever work that you could just be with like a normal guy. And I'm
No.
sure that if you saw the words normal, you'd kind of scroll past
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, 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 yeah. Like I'm a normal guy, and
But
I would
yeah.
think of like a Jordan Peterson, what he says about nice guys. Like I'm so
Mm,
like programmed in that way. Like I psychology, like I see like names or words or whatever. I'm like, oh, stay away from that. Like
yeah.
it's like it flashes to me. Because of stuff like that. Because of all the research and all the lectures and all the stuff that I've listened to for the past 10 years. It's hard to be around normal people.
Yeah. But this
So.
is it. I mean, once you know it, you can never go back
No,
anyway.
you can't. And you could
Yeah.
try, because I've tried. Like, because I was like, man, this isn't helping my personal life any. And no, it doesn't work.
You're trying to be normal. I mean,
Yeah.
with me, I'm still very good friends with all of my sort of the group that I grew up with, the
Yeah.
girls that
Me
I
too.
grew up with.
Yeah.
And but they're not on the same journey as me at
No,
all.
not at
Like
all.
they're not interested in the same stuff as me.
No, I'm
So,
arguing with them about masks right now. So
oh really?
not like serious. I'm joking. I'm being funny, but yeah, pretty much, like I have friends, girlfriends that I've been friends with for 20 years, and they have no clue of what the stuff I'm into. And,
Mm,
like, and I'll talk about, I told my best friend yesterday or the day before that we were going to be doing this and what, pretty much what we were going to be talking about. And I mean, she doesn't know anything about psychology or anything. And she agrees with me. Women are more masculine than feminine nowadays. Like she's a Leo. She's real masculine. She's got her doctrines. Like she's total in touch with her positive animus,
mm.
just in the way she moves in the world, like she's way masculine, but she looks feminine. She looks real feminine. She dresses
I
real
tell you what.
feminine.
Should we leave it on this note though?
Yeah.
Should we talk a little bit about how we can how women can connect more with their femininity?
Yeah. And, I think women, yeah, we should, because women should connect more to their femininity. I
Mm-hmm.
think we have, that's been taken away from us, I
Mm-hmm.
feel. You know, we are not men. We're not supposed to do everything a man does. We're not supposed to act like men. We are the fairer of the sex. We are supposed to have emotions. That's what our intuitions are. Or, you know, that's what the intuition is. You know, it's intuitive feeling. The female is emotive, you know, like that's, you know, it's where we are, our bodies for the most part. Even our minds are chemicals. So
You made me laugh a few days, about a week ago or something. You said
oh,
you were talking about the feminine. I don't know,
uh-huh.
about feeling more feminine. So you're
Yes,
wearing a
yes.
flowy skirt.
I have one on
Uh,
today.
so do I. Um,
Yes. So, and I told you to call me a skirt wear if you wanted to.
I was like, slow down, Cheryl. I just put on a denim
No,
skirt
see,
for
like
now.
I noticed a couple of years ago, like I never really dressed like a girly girl, you know, like I was always in jeans and like boots, like growing up, I wore combat boots, like band t-shirts. Cause you know, I was a tomboy, you know, and like,
Mm.
it totally just like, you know, like you heard me earlier talking about how I wanted to be in a rock band, with like a growl rock band, you know, a heavy metal band. So like, yeah, I've had to tap into my female side. So we should talk about that because I feel like it's been lost.
I mean, as I said before, and I'll just go through it again. The natural feminine traits are the unconditional love and the understanding, the nurturing, the tenderness, the kindness, the intuitive, the creative, the feeling, the stillness, the flow, radiance, surrender, sensitivity, emotionality. I guess ease and allowing. So I guess if you think about those kind of words and maybe incorporating some of that into how we are.
Yeah,
I mean, I laugh about the skirt because
I know,
I
I
mean,
know.
it is something
It's,
that's I'm sure that it would probably annoy a lot of women, but actually there is something about wearing those kind of feminine clothes that does make a woman feel
more feminine.
feminine, pretty.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know,
feel pretty, oh so pretty. Yes, it makes me feel more like a woman when I am dressed up and I something flow. I have a Taurus moon, so I'm into like the textures, like the feel of things, you know, and like real earthy stuff. So like I like, you know, like I like, you know, earthy feminine stuff, real soft sheets. And like it's probably why I do the dream catcher stuff, because it's all like feathers and beads. And
mm,
but my masculine side, take me out into a world in a rock concert, I'll be in the mosh pit.
really, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's a complete, like, you know, I want to feel like a woman, and
Mm.
I want to be able to have my will out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can't always do that in a skirt.
I don't know. You could
No, and not
just
everything, you know, I can't mountain climb in a
just make
skirt.
sure you got shorts on underneath. Um, but I mean, I mean, what this says about you, Cheryl, is that you've got a very good balance of both masculine and feminine energies.
Well,
Um,
you interpreted my dream yesterday, and it
yeah.
made me think about that after you interpreted that dream I had
Oh yeah.
about being the
Do you want to talk? Do you
marriage.
want to talk about that?
Yeah, I had a dream that I got proposed to by a beautiful blonde man with blue eyes in a bright house, like lit it up bright light house. And I was just like, you know, and of course I'm not even in a relationship. So, you know, so and you can talk about what you thought it was, you know, what you
Uh,
told me. Yeah.
I can't really remember, but I think you said. So you said it was you were proposed to. So this is like
The
uh,
marriage,
the
the
promise, the
promise,
marriage,
yes.
the contract between you and your sort of your masculine. But also he was a blonde and he was beautiful and he was
Yes, the
maybe
yin yang.
yeah. And so you with the dark hair and him with the blonde hair. So this would be
Hmm.
yin and yang kind of combination. So it's, I mean, it's about kind of fighting, you know, it kind of, it points to the fact that there's balance between your inner masculine and feminine. And then you also said that the house was very bright and
Yes, it was lit up, like, you know, it was hard to see in there because it was so bright, you
well,
know, like
that's
the white light.
illumination, isn't it? I mean, the
Yes,
house
yes.
is the symbol of the self, and then the brightness is like purity and also illumination and all knowing and wisdom. So it's a very good dream. It's a kind of like a sort of a talisman type dream, isn't it? Of kind of showing you that everything is okay at the moment for you.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about it until after you had said that, about the marriage, the promise, the illumination, because I've been doing a lot of study on the golden fleece of the alchemical marriage here lately. So and that was a couple of weeks ago before started doing the study. So I think subconsciously, I have been working. I totally have been into the Hermetic principle of dualism and gender, like for a long time. Is when I found Hermetic principles back in 2012, 2013 or something. I noticed that then that I like could be really masculine and then really feminine at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've
Well,
worked on it.
I think that that's something that we'll talk about next time. The Hermetic principles in relation to the Anima and Animus. That's one of the
Yeah.
things that we're going to talk about next time.
Yes. That would be,
But
I think, really interesting.
yeah, definitely. Well, listen, it's been really fun talking to you, Cheryl, as usual. Good. So thanks so much for joining me. And
thank you for asking me.
Yeah, and we'll speak again another time soon.
You have a good day.
And you, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.